Hello, brothers, and welcome to the November edition of FLA Live, your fraternal webinar series. My name is Daryl Barrios, and I'm your Director of Fraternal Training and Communications. And we have another jam-packed episode for you tonight. We're going to start with a mid-year checkup from the Fraternal Operations team. You know, where should your council be at the midpoint of this fraternal year? And what do you need to get done to get to that point if you're not there already? Then our evangelization and faith formation team, they'll be here to present some important information and updates about the initiatives they have going on. And finally, for our growth segment, we're going to have an interview with Supreme Master Michael McCusker that will be of particular interest to the state deputies in the audience. But as always, let's go ahead and open with the prayer for the canonization of our founder, Blessed Michael McGivney. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. God our Father, protector of the poor and defender of the widow and orphan, you called your priest, Blessed Michael McGivney, to be an apostle of Christian family life and to lead the young to the generous service of their neighbor. Through the example of his life and virtue, may we follow your Son, Jesus Christ, more closely, fulfilling his commandment of charity and building up his body, which is the church. Let the inspiration of your servant prompt us to greater confidence in your love, so that we may continue his work of caring for the needy and the outcast. We humbly ask that you glorify Blessed Michael McGivney on earth according to the design of your holy will. Through his intercession, grant the favor I now present. Through Christ our Lord, amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. So, brothers, as has become our tradition for our webinars, we're going to start with this month's Council Spotlight. And this month, we're spotlighting Bishop Nicholas A. Gallagher Council, 8482, from Prince of Peace Parish in Houston, Texas. We interviewed recently Bill Sanchez, their Grand Knight, and Fernando Flores, their District Deputy, to talk about their Silver Rose program, how they put it on, how they integrate the parish as a whole into the program, and how it's really paid dividends for the parish and the council as a whole. Let's go ahead and check out that interview.
Council 8482 is based out of Prince of Peace Parish in Cypress, Texas, and it's a active parish with a large Spanish-speaking community. And our past Grand Knight, Clay Evans, recognized that we had an opportunity to reach out to the Spanish-speaking brothers that were out there that just hadn't been recruited, hadn't been brought into the Knights of Columbus. The Silver Rose event for us really was a bridge to that outreach. It showed us that we could come together around worship and around practicing our faith in a way that brought both communities together. One of the keys for us was our bilingual brother knights, who helped us in reaching out to the individual Spanish ministries and inviting them to become a part of it. The Guadalupanos, the ceremonial dance groups that joined us, all contributed to the beauty of the event. We recognized we needed to have an outreach to our Spanish-speaking knights who weren't necessarily comfortable in the English-based general membership meeting. And so we started 1 week out this year. We began after our general membership meeting. We would have a Spanish language communication meeting. And we also got our bilingual brothers to start a Spanish exemplification team and began recruiting actively. We now alternate monthly English and Spanish language exemplifications. And so in this year, we've seen a tremendous response. We've gotten 18 new brother knights in just the first few months. And we're really getting young knights who are very early in their time in the order, stepping up into real leadership positions for us. The involvement with the Silver Rose is about 4 years old. And as we did it each year, one of the things we saw was that more and more of the Spanish ministries would get excited about it, would attend, would bring people into the event. And this year's was really a great example of that. We had 2 of the ceremonial dance groups, Danza Azteca, and an additional group that joined us, the Guadalupanas, our pro-life ministry. One of the secrets for the Silver Rose's success is that it's been a way for us to make contact with multiple ministries across the parish, not just multiple Hispanic ministries, but also engaging Prince of Peace's pro-life ministry, bringing all of them together under the umbrella of Our Lady of Guadalupe and the Silver Rose. So we've seen a definite response as the community sees that the Knights are interested in and willing to go the extra step to recruit members from across our parish, whether they speak English or Spanish. And so that's been a real benefit.
Not only am I a member of Council 8482, but I'm also the district deputy for Council 8482 and also the chairman of the Silver Rose for the Archdiocese Galveston Houston. Prince of Peace has grown within the Archdiocese Galveston Houston to be one of the biggest events that has occurred within the Galveston Houston Archdiocese.
Welcome back, brothers. And I think that video shows just another great example of the great work that our councils can do for their parishes and their communities when they really put their minds to it. I'm now joined by Director of Programs, Drew Dillingham, and Director of Ceremonials and Council Experience, Kevin Brady. And what we're going to do at this point is we're going to do a brief, roundtable type discussion about where council should be at this, very close to the midpoint of this fraternal year, in terms of things like growth programs, insurance promotion, and just administration in general. And with the three of us all being current Grand Knights, I think it's going to give a bit of a unique perspective to what we talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and start with, the overview. Star Council, it's kind of the roadmap for, where a council should be. So, Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, at halftime here of the fraternal year, you're looking at all the requirements for Star Council, the first one being membership. The McGivney Award, every council should be shooting for the fraternal year, a 6% increase of their June 30th membership that was on their roster. And that's a minimum of 5 members or a maximum of 15. For the Columbian Award, which is programs, Drew's going to cover the program credits in the faith and action categories of faith, family, community, and life. We then talk about the Founders Award for Insurance Promotion, and Daryl's going to cover all of our fraternal benefit events and how councils can assist our members in knowing about our insurance products. And then the forms, as you mentioned, the 185 for officers, the 365 to let us know who your chairmen are, and the 1728 for your fraternal survey. And then we're going to go over safe environment compliance. And then lastly, we're going to go over how councils can be in good standing regarding their council billing statement.
Great. Can you go a bit more? You talked briefly about the McGivney Award and membership. Can you go a bit deeper into that?
Absolutely. So membership being one of the goals for a council to hit that 6% mark, you need an active membership director. He's one of the most necessary men in your council. He needs to be at programs. He needs to be at things pushing recruitment. Monitoring on officers online, your prospect tab is something that every council should be doing. If a member joins online, he's going to show up. If he specifically states that he wants to join your council, he'll show up on your prospect tab. That's when you reach out to him and you get him to an exemplification that you should have either scheduled already or send him to the video that we have online to join. And then it's really important at your council programs, which Drew is going to go into detail about. You need to have that membership team there, because I know, and we all know, when you're at a program, whether it's the free throw or a fish fry, you're in the program. You've got to have a separate set of guys looking at recruitment. When we're behind the grill, you can't actively engage a recruit. So the membership team should be the one doing that. One-on-one recruitment at Mass, coming up to that man that you've seen actively engaged in other programs in the parish, is definitely something that they should we should be doing as councils. And then scheduling a spring membership drive is something you want to do. Parishes are very busy. Start looking at that now. get it in the bulletin, get it in, booking a church hall or a venue. You're going to need to do that now with your parish offices. And then lastly, working with your insurance agent. There are full-time salesmen that you definitely want to engage in all of your recruitment. So,
yeah, when it comes to just a little bit more about membership director, he's got to have a couple key qualities. And I'm just thinking about the membership director that we have for my council. He's a go-getter, he's independent, he's extroverted, and he knows what it takes to get the job done. A few days ago, my council had 4 new members. I just got a text from my membership director saying, hey, next Tuesday before our council meeting, I'm going to have 6 guys there for the exemplification out of nowhere. We didn't have any membership drives. We didn't do anything specific. He just went up to these men individually through daily life at the parish and asked them, and they said yes. So you need to find a membership director with the skills that it takes to succeed in the job. It's going to make, if you're a Grand Knight, it's going to make your job much easier.
Yeah, and I want to really emphasize something that Kevin brought up, and that's recruitment at events. Almost every member we've recruited this year has been at an event, and as you said, as Grand Knight, I'm not the one doing it. I'm doing something else. I'm either pressing the flesh or or behind the helping cook or whatever the case may be. I've got dedicated guys that's their job. Our membership director, and he has 5 or 6 guys, maybe not at every event, but that they're working with him to be that the point of the tip of the spear, to get that membership done.
And you don't have to say you're active in doing things in the council. They're at the event that you're being active at.
Exactly. That's the key.
I think if you're going to do a membership drive or a church drive, it's better to say, hey, we need volunteers for this Coats for Kids event, or we're hosting CORE soon. Would you like to join us? Rather than, hey, we're the Knights of Columbus. Do you want to become a knight? I think it's just a much better way to get men to join if you actually give them something to look forward to and attend and to be part of.
Exactly. And, we at Supreme, we understand that recruitment is hard. It's not it doesn't come natural to everybody. So we have a lot of resources to help our members and our councils with the recruiting of new men. We have training sessions for teaching them how to recruit at activities, at church drives, how to do the exemplification, because an in-person exemplification is always preferable to the recording. I mean, obviously, if that's the only way we can get a man in, we want him to get the lessons, but in person is always better. And then I think a really key training we have is how to transition a man when he joins online into your council. A lot of councils don't know exactly how that process works. So we have a training about that. We have how-to videos as well. How does the online join process work? We work here and we think it's simple, but not everybody it works with it every single day like we do. And then open houses, very something that seems like it should be a no-brainer. If a council's never done one before, this video will teach you how to do it. And then, of course, we have tons of printed resources. The Fishers of Men guidebook was released last year, and there's a lot of resources that go along with that, things, trifolds and posters and things like that. So, we have a ton of resources available. But as we said, one of the key ways to recruit is at an event, our programs.
Right.
And, Drew, I know programs can be are the lifeblood of a council.
Yeah, definitely.
Where should they be at this point?
Right. So I wanted to cover 4 things that council should focus on programmatically to ensure a successful half of this fraternal year. So the first is run a featured program. Simple enough. The second is to reserve the Sacred Heart of Jesus Pilgrim icon. The third is to review the new Faith in Action programs we've been releasing since the start of the fraternal year, but the final programs will be released in November. And then lastly, it's to put in place a plan to earn the Columbian Award. Even if you haven't started running any programs, there's still a lot of time left in the year, and any council can earn that award as long as they work hard and they have a plan in place. my own council, right, just ballparking it, we're probably about 2/3 of the way towards Columbia. And after we complete our Coats for Kids distribution on the 23rd of November, we'll get 2 more program credits. We'll be able to knock out the community category. And then we just have to focus on some family programs and 1 or 2 faith programs, and we'll be there.
That's great. With Coats for Kids, the holidays are busy, but all of our councils, I think, are coming together for that Coats for Kids event. And, it's a great morning where you're doing something great for the community, but even in the midst of the holiday, it fits in.
Yeah, definitely. So here's just some of the featured programs. I think these, we have a lot of featured programs, about 2 in each program category, but these 4 right here, I think they're very much so aligned with the mission of the order. So if you haven't done one of these already, plan on doing one sometime during the second half of the fraternal year. So ASAP, right, that means you're going to carry out a baby bottle drive for your local pregnancy center, or go and volunteer with the members of your council at a maternity home or some other similar pro-life organization. Coats for Kids, that involves purchasing new coats from Knight's Gear and handing them out, or maybe helping out another council like Kevin just mentioned. Food for Families, you could help, you could donate food to a food bank. You could do a food drive at your parish for your local food pantry. You could do a 40 cans for Lent initiative. And then RSVP is very simple. You provide financial support and moral support to a seminarian or mentor religious postulant or novice. And to participate in that, you just need to know who they are. So I'd recommend reaching out to your state vocations chairman there. And I think, if you've been watching the news, there's been an uptick in vocations, which is great. And a huge part of that is because of the Knights of Columbus. We've donated more than $100 million to seminarians and vocations since 1981. So just keep up the great work out there if you're already supporting that program. One of the members of our council here, he was a member of our council for a year, and then he ended up joining the Capuchins. So he's over in California, but we're still sending him money.
Well, and our former seminarian, who was just ordained, is now one of your priests over at St. Mary's.
Well, that's awesome.
So,
Yep. All right. So another program you can carry out, if you haven't already, is the Pilgrim Icon program. If you haven't heard, we already launched that new Pilgrim Icon. We were doing St. Joseph for a few years before. Then we launched the Pilgrim Icon of the Sacred Heart of Jesus at the end of 2024, January 2025. So that should be circulating in every jurisdiction. We've had hundreds of thousands of participants in those Sacred Heart Holy Hours. So that's just adoration of the Blessed Sacrament with the image and prayers to the Sacred Heart. You can get everything you need for that program on Supplies Online for free. So the next step for that is to reach out to your pastor, get it on the calendar in your parish, maybe First Friday. That's a very popular date to have it.
that's when we're doing it.
I know there's one council near here. It's my old council chaplain who's doing it every month on First Friday, and they're getting really good turnout.
That's us.
That's your council.
That's
your council. So yeah, meet with your pastor, pick a date to run it, and then also reach out to your state Pilgrim Icon chairman, maybe through your DD, to make sure you can actually reserve it, because I know it's in high demand. Another aspect of the Pilgrim Icon program, and this is something new, is the home enthronement ceremony. So put simply, that's just about families getting together, getting a framed image of the Sacred Heart, and carrying out a prayer service in the home with one another to consecrate themselves and everything that they have, everything they own, to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The great thing about that ceremony is that it really puts the man, the father of the family, in that position of spiritual leadership, right, that he should be in. And even though it's only a brief ceremony, about 10 to 15 minutes, it really has a big impact. It can help you recenter your family's life around Christ, right, and really strengthen what your family is. So highly encourage any councils that haven't promoted that to do so. Again, we have all the resources available. You can either print them out online for free at kfc.org/Sacred Heart, or you can purchase them on Supplies Online or the CIS store. There's a couple upcoming dates to host it. the pilgrim icon or one of these ceremonies, and that is the Solemnity of Christ the King on November 23rd, and then also the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus is next June. There's other feast days in between there, but those are the main dates. And then lastly, very pleased to talk about the new Faith in Action programs that have been recently released. So all of these programs, they're featured. If you carry them out, you're going to get 2 credits towards the Columbian Award. Those featured requirements are very simple. It's basically, carry out the program. If it's a Holy Hour for Life with Our Lady of Guadalupe, it's host a Holy Hour. If it's Bright Futures, it's support your local school. So if you're looking for ways to earn Columbian Award and also to better engage the men of your parish and the families in your parish, these are the programs you're going to want to carry out. So that what you'll notice when I'm talking about these programs is that I would say the primary audience are men from Hispanic cultures, families from Hispanic cultures, but we also made them universal, right? They're Catholic programs, so they apply to any council, any parish, so anyone can run them and they'll be successful. And what's nice about these programs is that the resources, for the most part, I'd say 90% of them are free to order on Supplies Online.
Yeah, and one thing I'd really, I want to emphasize that council should go look up these new programs, because they may be doing a program that already fits under this, and they don't realize it, especially when it comes to something like the Bright Futures program, where you mentioned, supporting your schools. We have plenty of councils out there that are supporting, their local Catholic schools or even their local public schools that, they can now get 2 program credits for what they've already been doing.
Very true. And these programs, we didn't just, come up with them on our own. We looked at what councils were doing successfully and what were having an impact on the community. We also looked at state council program award winners, and we developed our programs that way. So we know that these programs work and will help in strengthening men and the faith of and parishes and their communities and the faith therein. So here are the new programs. I'll just give you a very simple overview, because you can go to kfc.org/faithinAction to learn more about them. You can read the guide sheets like Daryl just mentioned and look at the resources there. So in the faith category, we have Imitating St. Juan Diego and Viva Cristo Rey. Imitating St. Juan Diego involves a traveling image of Our Lady of Guadalupe from family to family within the parish. So the pilgrim icon goes from council to council. This image, you want to keep it within the parish. We're also going to have a new statue, which is very cool. I think it's the best Our Lady of Guadalupe statue out there that I've seen. We're going to have that in 2026. That's going to be on Supplies Online. Viva Cristo Rey is about devotion to the Mexican martyrs and information about the Cristero War in Mexico. Community programs are Celebrating Our Catholic Heritage, which is about promoting devotions and parish festivals that are connected to the culture or the saints that are connected to your parish. So if you are at, I was at one parish, it was St. Anne's, and St. Anne's used to be a French parish, 100 years ago, and everything in there, all the stained glass is in French. But now, when you walk in there, everything's in Spanish. And I saw put up on the bulletin board a parish festival for Our Lady of Divine Providence for Puerto Rico. So that's the kind of thing. Like if you're an Italian parish, or if you're at my parish is St. Patrick's, right? We have a huge St. Patrick's Day festival, right? So that would fall under Celebrating Our Catholic Heritage. Bright Futures is support of schools, especially Catholic schools. Family programs, we have Remembering Our Faithful Departed, which is praying for the souls in purgatory, especially in November, and then honoring the members of your council who have died. We have Quinceañera support, which is supporting those celebrations that are held in parishes, especially with the prayer service. And then the life programs, we have Holy Hour for Life with Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is Adoration of the Blessed Sacrament for pro-life intentions. And then the last one is Gospel of Life, which is just promoting educational resources and events for the topic of defense of human life. And we created, with the evangelization and faith formation team, a new study guide from the Core Ecclesia series called Gospel of Life. And that is a small discussion group to learn more about that encyclical of John Paul II. So we have a great lineup there.
Yeah, and like I said, it's very likely that we have a lot of councils out there who are already qualifying for these without knowing it because they didn't know they existed.
Right. Awesome. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about is just earning the Columbian Award. So I think now, basically at the mid-year point in the fraternal year, you just kind of want to reflect on what you've done so far. So take out the SB7, the Columbian Award application, and fill it out with what you've already done, and then also include what you plan to do. Right? Then you know where you are. And then you're going to see, well, what do I have left to do? For what you have left to do, you're going to reach out to your council officers, to the program chairman that you work out, and see what they want to do, right? See what they want to take the lead at. If you're the Grand Knight, you shouldn't be leading the programs. You want other men on your council to do that. And you're also going to want to reach out to the pastor and see what he would like your council to do to try and fill those programs, right? And then there you have it, right? You probably, at this point, you probably only need a few more programs.
Yeah.
So you're going to take those programs, put them on your calendar, and then you're going to start planning and promoting them. Really, so it's at this point, it's really just looking back at what you've done programmatically and seeing what you need to do to achieve Columbian. And I think if you work hard and you plan, you're going to get it done.
Yeah, and looking forward, I think it's, something a lot of councils may not think about is using the Columbian Award, the SP7 form, as a planning basis for the next fraternal year. Now is the time to evaluate your programs as you're doing them. Right. If you did, XYZ program and it didn't really work out the way you wanted it to, you need to evaluate it and find out, do we need to change the way we do it, or do we need to look for some other program to do? And this is a great time to start making those evaluations.
Right. Like in our parish, this might apply to other councils that do a lot of fundraisers. For October, which is Respect Life in the U.S., we did a baby bottle drive, and we raised a lot of money. But now we have our Coats for Kids drive in November, and it's hard to fundraise for Coats for Kids when you just fundraised for baby bottle, like for the Pregnancy Resource Center. So just evaluating how you have your program structured and your fundraiser structured is important too.
Yeah, sometimes it's all about timing.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously, the next part of of Star Council that Kevin had mentioned earlier is the Founders Award. And of course, for councils to earn the Founders Award, they have to participate in fraternal benefit events. Now, of course, if your general agent or your field agent is doing fraternal benefit events locally and you can participate in them, that's great. Continue to do that. We want you to participate with your local agents. We understand that that's not always the case. Some areas, they don't have agents right now. They're trying to hire gentlemen. So we at Supreme have, ones that we sponsor virtually. So those are they're announced in the Fraternal Leader Advisory so that, our council leaders and our district deputies know when they're coming up. And the real good thing for our councils is if you participate in one of our Supreme sponsored events, you don't have to fill out Form 11077. You automatically get credit for the men who attend as long as they give us their council number. Make sure if they're attending these events that they put in their council number. We have quite a few people forget to put in their council number, and so we can't credit your council for those men. Now, for this half of the fraternal year, with holidays coming up, Thanksgiving soon, and then, Christmas and New Year's, we're done with our FBEs for this half of the year, but we are currently working on scheduling events starting in January. So keep watching the FLA. We will have all those dates in the FLA so that you can promote them to your councils, to your parishioners, because of course, these are not just for the men of your council. We want, the men who aren't members of your council to know about the great benefits that the Knights have as well. And I think I would be a little remiss if I didn't point out one change in the Founders Award this year. As you're aware, I think, Kevin mentioned it, that, the requirements, there are 2 FBE requirements and the numbers, but we made a slight tweak this year so that if the Grand Knight and the Deputy Grand Knight of your council each meet individually with your field agent, that will count as one of your 2 FBEs. You still got to make the number. So if your number is 14, you still got to get 14 attendees. But if you can get them all in one FBE, you're great. You're good to go. So, you know, if you weren't aware of that change, that's a new change this year, and I highly recommend you take advantage of it if you can. Now let's talk about a topic. I think it's one of our favorite topics to talk about, especially as Grand Knights, and that's safe environment. And of course, you know, we understand the challenges that the Safe Environment Program presents sometimes. But honestly, gentlemen, and I'd hope my 2 colleagues would agree with me, if you put your mind to it, it's not hard to get your council compliant with safe environment. You know, I mean, there are 4 required positions. You know, your Grand Knight, your program director, your family director, and your community director. But the Grand Knight can double up in one of those positions. So your Grand Knight could also be your program director. So a minimum of 3 people are required. And then, you know, all 4 of them have to take the course. That's the easy part. And then the family director and the community director are the only 2 that a background check is required for. So if you have those 4 people, they all take the course and the 2 required positions have the background check done, you're done. It's really rather simple. I mean, I think the only thing that catches people off guard sometimes is the email requirement, where, you know, I know a lot of our councils, you know, out there use, you know, Grand Knight at, you know, Council 1 St. John Bosco or whatever the case may be, and that type of email won't cut it. It needs to be a personal email that's attached to an individual person. Now, if you're unsure if your council has met compliance, it's really easy to check this out. If you're a Grand Knight or financial secretary, all you have to do is log into Officers Online, and you go down to the Safe Environment reports, and you can see the one we have circled right there. You click on the spreadsheet icon, and it will pull up a report that shows whether, you know, each individually who is compliant, what they might be missing if they aren't compliant, whether it's the course or the background check. One thing that you want to pay attention to is when these gentlemen, when their training is expiring, because that can cause you some problems, especially as we approach the end of the fraternal year. You know, he may be compliant now, but if his rescreening date is like in May, you don't want it to expire, and then it comes up that, oh, when the end of the fraternal year comes up, your council's actually not compliant and you're not eligible for the Star Council Award. So make sure you're checking those retraining dates and those rescreening dates on that report, because those are really important. So the way this process works, when you submit your 185 and your 365, either, you know, the paper form or, you know, doing it through member management, which is absolutely the best way to do that. When those 4 positions are filled, a message is sent to our provider, Presidium, and they send an email to those people, inviting them to take the training. And this is, on the screen, you'll see an example of what that email looks like. When you click into the email, you have for your first time, you have to set up an account. You will get a code in your email. You click the link that says, set up an account using the provided code. You set up that first that account for the first time, and then it lets you into the system, and that's when it's going to allow you to start taking the training, and if necessary, to give approval for the background check to be conducted on you if you're in one of those 2 positions. It sounds difficult. It sounds like a lot of work.
I was just about to say, all the slides you just went through, it's quick.
It's really not. There's a lot involved, but honestly, it's not that hard a process. It's just one of those realities of the world we live in today. So, Kevin, I guess the last thing we need to talk about is making sure that our councils are, in good standing with Supreme, and Can you talk a little bit about what that means and how they can find out if they are?
Sure. Quite easily. Simply, our councils need to pay our Supreme Council per capita. And you get that through your council statement, your billing statement. And coming out of COVID, the Supreme Council stopped mailing out to the tune of a great financial savings. We started going paperless. And in Officers Online, under Reports, under the Report tab, if you go down to your council billing statement, the link that is provided is the current council billing statement, and that's where you go and see what your council owes. Once you pay that bill, you are current. So it's just that easy. It's just that coming out of COVID, we went paperless, and some councils were looking for that billing statement in the mail, and it's now paperless, and you have to go get it yourself and pay it. But it's much easier that way now.
Yeah. And we do put announcements about it in the FLA. So, I mean, it's not like we've just hung them out dry.
My financial secretary loves it because he
Mine too.
doesn't like, seeing either if we're mailing something out or he's getting mail, he's like, can't we just go paperless? It saves money.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And so it's just a matter of, if you didn't know this, you need to go check this now, because maybe your council is not compliant right now, and just because you didn't know. So, I guess I would say, to wrap all this up, it sounds like a lot. It sounds like there's a lot councils need to do to be in a good spot, as we approach the end of this calendar year and the beginning of the second half of the fraternal year. But honestly, if your council is just operating in a regular manner, with the exception of maybe safe environment and checking your bills, all of this should just be happening naturally.
Well, it's not just you as Grand Knight or you as Grand Knight or me doing it. You've got a team together.
Exactly.
And,
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Kevin, Drew, thank you very much for joining us. Brothers, I hope you got a lot out of this conversation. And, Drew, to wrapping back around the programs, we have a great example of an ASAP program that we'd like to share with our brothers right now.
Today is very exciting because we are talking about the Knights of Columbus and how wonderful their organization is, and the Archbishop will be blessing this maternity home. Now that we have our addition finished, we're ready to go to be able to serve pregnant women in crisis, and we are so excited to have the blessing of God through the Archbishop on this home.
Well, the Gabriel Network is an operation that deals with the survivorship of life. Baby is a gift from God. And what they do is they try to make sure that any woman that's willing to have that baby and not go the abortion route, they'll do what they can to help her.
The realization the Knights have and others have is that when we're going to support life, it can't just be prior to birth. It also has to be after birth. This is a way for the wider community to say, well, no, we're supportive of this. We appreciate that you're bringing this baby into the world. We appreciate what you're doing, that you're standing up for life.
This exists so that we might offer love and support to women who find themselves in challenging personal situations, who find themselves pregnant and in difficult straits, and it exists to help us accompany them so that they might bring their children into the world and that their children might have a good, strong start in life.
This isn't about construction. This is about the women that we are helping. These girls need to know that they're worth it, and we're going to make sure that we take care of that.
Being a part of this initiative has really impacted me. I've been the director for 3 years, and in that time, I've been working with the Knights pretty considerably. But this is the biggest part of working with the Knights during my time as director in building this addition. There's so much that goes into it.
I pray that this home will serve women and their children for years to come and be a place of happiness, holiness, and security.
Welcome back, brothers. I'm joined now by Sean Pott, Senior Director of Evangelization and Education, and Robbie Naden, Director of Catholic Information Service. So, Sean, Robbie, it seems like more and more we're hearing from councils asking the question, how can they work better with existing men's ministries within their parishes, how they can work with them or alongside them. Have y'all been hearing that same thing?
We have actually quite a bit. It's been the number one question that our team has been getting, especially as we've seen core expand. It's been taking off really fast, all glory to God. This is the 4th year, but as guys are diving into core and understanding it more and working with their pastors, that's coming up a lot. How do we work with men's ministries? And so we want to make sure up at the forefront, the guys remember core should not compete with any existing ministries. With a lot of parishes and for a lot of our councils, there might be ministries that have existed for a long time, and that's something that we want to make sure our council's honoring is, honoring the work that has been done, honoring the guys that are there, and remembering that we're stepping into a place where a lot of guys have been also. So we want to approach that conversation well, not competing, but looking at what can we offer. And it's important to remember that core is something that can also answer the question of what's next. There's a lot of men's groups out there that have content and a curriculum that they're working through, and I think that's where conversations might be starting to happen as an existing group is coming to the end, a natural end of what they're working on or going through, and they're asking what's next, and the council saying, hey, we have this. Or they're coming to a group that has been around for a long time, and they're trying to figure out how to exist in that same space.
Exactly. And that, as a Grand Knight, I'm actually running into that exact situation. We have an existing men's ministry, which I'm also part of, in our parish, and we're working through with our EFF director and our pastor how to have everybody work together, in harmony as a team so that no one is stepping on anyone else's toes.
And it's important to remember that to avoid stepping on each other's toes is also remembering that we're on the same team. We all have the same mission, and that's really important. Is you're coming into these conversations, and it shouldn't compete because the goal is bringing men to Jesus Christ. Exactly. What does a men's prayer group exist to do? To help men encounter Jesus Christ through prayer, to grow in their faith, and that's where core is coming into this conversation. So that's what we're trying to help guys help them remember. What's the mission? What's the commonality of mission? And it shouldn't compete.
Exactly. Now, I guess the next question, should be, when and even more so, how should this conversation take place?
I think part of that strategy is you want to talk with the pastor and you want to look for commonality. You want to look for ways to do this. Robbie and I have actually been talking about this, feel free to jump in here, brother. But it is looking, talking with the pastor about his vision and goals, but also with that men's group about what is their mission.
And there's often a lot of history here, right? Whether this men's group came out of a vision of individuals or a group of men, maybe 20, 30 years ago, maybe it's brand new. So I think having that conversation in all honesty and bringing things forward that maybe need to be addressed that haven't been addressed, if there has been a spirit of competition beforehand or whatever that dynamic is, having the honesty to say we want to work through this and work together and be on the same mission, and the humility to say that maybe there's faults on both sides if there is that division, right? The parish, it's a human society. We have brokenness, we have egos, we have all these things that this can be an opportunity to kind of build a bridge past that and get all on board in the same direction.
Sure. So if I'm hearing you both correctly, it sounds like you're encouraging our councils, to not presume, that they understand, even if, like in my case, you're a part of that ministry, that you don't fully understand the mission of that ministry, and to have that a really open and honest, conversation with them. So is there a strategy that y'all would, suggest to help that conversation go well?
I think, building on what Robbie was just saying is the importance of not presuming. being self-aware and really wanting to do your homework. And I think this comes interiorly asking ourselves, do I want this to go well? Or am I trying to conquer? And I know we've heard stories from councils and parishes where sometimes there's a steamrolling that can happen, or we've done really, really well in other areas as a council, and so we're stepping into this space, and there's a lot of zeal and a lot of excitement. We really want to do this well also, but it's important to do that homework. So do your homework. What is that ministry about? What are they doing? What are they offering? And how can we work together? What's that mission? How comfortable am I talking about the Knights of Columbus and what the mission of CORE is and how these work together?
And another thing that you'll often find is that there are probably knights who are actually doing the leading in these other men's ministries who are maybe looking for that opportunity to do this for the knights as well, for the council. And so part of that doing your homework is making sure you understand and maybe sit down with some of these guys who have been a part of it and can be the ones to bring groups together and share that mission.
Which in sharing that mission, I think something to put on their radar is, or a theme, a strategy is finding common ground. If you find common ground, it helps build that trust, and trust is a key thing. And I know that, we've spoken with knights who were leading CORE, who are EFF directors, and being an EFF director is actually what brought them back into the council. They might have been actually running a men's ministry or men's group adjacent to the council because the council wasn't doing it. Like Robbie was saying earlier, being self-aware, what have we done or not done? But finding that common ground again can also be a point of healing.
Right, and this can be those opportunities, right? Sometimes guys or parishes, even pastors, might have a box that the Knights of Columbus fit in. The Knights do this thing. And these other things, that's what my men's ministry does, or that's what this prayer group does. And recognizing that the Knights are here for, first of all men and all families of the parish, and to provide that space for all of us to grow in our faith as disciples and as brothers and as fathers. And so kind of having this as an opportunity to work past stereotypes or preconceptions that all sorts of people might have.
Yeah, I think you said it very well. In a lot of parishes, if not the majority of parishes where there's a Knights Council, there is a presumption of what the Knights are. The Knights have an identity. They're the fish fry guys or the pancake breakfast guys or whatever it might be. But of course, we have to make sure that our councils understand, and by extension, our parishes understand that, the identity of a Knights Council doesn't have to be and shouldn't be boiled down to just one single thing.
And it's really, I know councils who do that one thing very, very well. Yes. But we found that that's become a point of tension, is even when you get a guy who's zealous and excited about CORE, the council says, no, this is the thing that we do. Okay, let's even within the council, how can we find common ground, and what are we trying to accomplish? But in that, we want to help. We want to encourage guys to be creative, and that's within their council, but also within working with these these men's ministries, is be creative. Our guys sometimes can be very the letter of the law. Yes. What's the thing that we need to do? And I love it because it makes our guys excellent at what they do. But when you're reading through CORE, it might be like, well, what we're talking about isn't CORE. Okay, but what's the goal? Remember, what's the goal? Is there a way through combining these efforts and being creative where you get prayer formation and fraternity? Then great. If you call it CORE, awesome. If you don't call it CORE, okay. The goal is being met. You're doing the thing. Exactly. And be creative. And I think that's where we see different needs come up, and councils to do that one thing. They've met a need, they found a need, and they've done it extremely well. But maybe the need is met, more men need to be engaged, and that men's group meets on this night, and CORE can meet here. Okay, we're in the same sandbox. Let's be creative on how this works. Or maybe CORE is the thing that brings all of the guys together. That's another thing too.
Yeah, you'll find in parishes where here's this men's group, but then there's these other groups that maybe do a Bible study or different prayers, and maybe there's a lot of silos of different men's ministries that are happening in the creative side. core could be the thing that brings them together in one spot. And,
Exactly.
and maybe you don't need to meet every week, but once a month, all of these groups of men that are doing great things on their own can come together and grow as a parish community.
And actually, a quick nod to our college councils, because I know some of them have come up against this, you know, whether they're in a Newman Center or where there's other just men's ministries and groups that are on campus vying for the same population of guys. And something that we've told them is, okay, how can you be creative? How can you meet that, you know, fit this need or that niche as a council in a way that the others aren't? So maybe there's a group on campus that's doing formation really well, and another group is doing prayer really well. How can the Knights bring the fraternal part really well in that synergy, or actually be the point that brings all of them together?
Sure.
And like you said, the silos, breaking down the silo walls for a point of prayer formation and fraternity in a given month. And the Knights provide that. So, you know, whether it's the college Knights or even other councils, that might be a way to consider that as well.
Exactly. Now, going back to the conversation, you know, that you're having with these other ministries, assuming that conversation goes well, what would you say to a council who feels they may have to, for want of a better word, compromise what core is, the core identity, to make that mission work? What would you say to a council that feels that that's what they're being asked to do?
You know, I think this is really where, again, it comes down to that freedom of being creative. You know, feel that freedom. I can be creative because I know the mission. And so if you feel that you know, whether it's if you feel like you can't be creative, dive into the mission. What's the mission of core? What's the mission of the Knights? What are we trying to accomplish? And I think there's a lot of peace in looking at the compromises that can happen to get to the end zone. And so have confidence in knowing that still can be achieved. It's not about the letter of the law, about being called core, about the council owning it 100%. There's freedom.
Yeah, and I think the framework, right, the flexible framework of core really fits what most ministries are going to do, but maybe it's that opportunity to have a conversation of saying, okay, this group is really strong on the formation, but can we be more intentional about setting time aside for prayer? And that might honestly be an answer to what that group might be struggling with. Of we've been doing the same thing for a long time. What's missing? Well, we need that intentional time of prayer, or we need intentional time of really just getting to know each other instead of diving right into the formative aspect that we're doing. So every circumstance is going to be different. Every parish life is going to be different. But I think what core can offer in that is a vision of that flexible arrangement.
Sure. Now, Sean, you mentioned, the mission of the Knights of Columbus. And, I think sometimes it's difficult for a council to bring to non-members, to show them what the value of a Knights of Columbus council is. What's the value to a parish of having the Knights of Columbus? Where can our guys look to help them get that message across?
That's a great question. We have worked really hard as a team to build out our core webpage, kfc.org/core, where we walk through the initial history of the Knights, and we talk about the vision and mission of core as it exists within the mission of the Knights of Columbus, but really also in the mission of the church. And so we talk about that there. We have some video resources there to looking at the foundations of core, but there's also a lot of rich content. And I think that's something that we've been, in our Knights know, we've delivered content for a long time. CIS,
77 years?
Yeah, right? So a lot of content.
Yes.
But really, really valuable content that has been really geared towards core. Now, actually, the expert sitting next to you over there, I'll let him talk even more about those resources.
Yeah, and this is another thing that the council can bring to a men's group, right? There's so much fantastic Catholic faith formation content available out there. But what we've really been doing the past few years is focusing on men's faith formation content that can be fit specifically in core. But of course, that means any other men's ministry would benefit from this. So whether it's our Bible study for men, our Core Ecclesia series, we have a study on St. Joseph, study on the Eucharist, a new study coming out very soon on the Gospel of Life, all of these sorts of things. But then also just those regular resources, especially if you're encountering new men who are just getting started in their life of faith, how to pray the rosary. What does the church say on different difficult topics, all sorts of those things that could just spark conversations in a small group setting as well.
I would also add, I was talking with a guy who's been a knight for a long time, and he, in looking through these resources, kind of forgetting that they were there, was, oh wow, look how the knights are talking this. I didn't know the knights spoke this way about faith and thought this way about evangelization and formation. It expanded the world in his mind as a knight, and not to mention, we were talking about presumptions earlier and the box that others might put our councils in, but it does expand the scope of the value that a council offers for men in the parish.
And there's a lot there for an individual man too, right? We come together for core and we are formed together, but then I got to go home, right? And I need to live my faith daily. And so CIS and the Knights have resources there as well. I'm thinking specifically of Viva Jesus for that at-home consistency. How am I praying every day? How am I living my life of faith in a regular way when I wake up in the morning? Am I making that time for prayer? Speaking of Viva Jesus, can we expect the 2026 version sometime soon? Yes, very soon. So this month in November, it should be fully available. It's a little bit different format, more of a sit on your desk type thing, rather than something that you put in your pocket. So look for that for sure. It should be available very soon. Great. And in closing, gentlemen, is there anything else new coming from EFF that our members should know about? Yeah, so you might have seen the trailers out for the newest installment of the Into the Breach series, this one on the dignity of work. And so we're very excited for that to be released soon in 2026. So look for that, but we do have the trailer available here now. Great. Well, Sean, Robbie, thank you very much for joining us. And let's go ahead and check out that trailer.
Right from the beginning, as God gives that command to subdue the earth, to rule over it, this is the vocation of work.
Work allows us to participate in God's unfolding plan of saving the world.
When we work, we are shaping ourselves. And so work is fundamental to our identity.
Do I think St. Joseph was a good carpenter? Yes, absolutely. God chose Joseph to teach Jesus what the model of a man would look like, how to give a good day's work, how to live virtue.
The rise of artificial intelligence is a real challenge. Artificial intelligence has both promise and peril.
Pope Leo XIV wants us to see that we're on the brink of another revolution, and this is the AI revolution.
There's lots of beautiful, wonderfully poetic things to say about work. But in reality, work looks like an early morning. Work looks like a grumpy boss.
Workaholism. We live in this kind of major hustle culture right now where I don't sleep, I only work. We don't want to get lost in the idea that the only thing that brings me value is work.
If you feel trapped in a cycle of stress and overwork, my advice would be to refocus, to recenter your life on Christ.
Work is for the sake of leisure. Leisure is the highest sort of activity that we can do, whether it's prayer, contemplation, play, or art or culture.
The hero is Jesus Christ. He's the worker. We are his apprentices. The working man par excellence is Jesus Christ himself.
Welcome back, brothers. I'm now joined by Michael McCusker, Supreme Master. Michael is a past state deputy of the state of Tennessee. And when you were state deputy, you had a membership program that really helped you, especially during the COVID years.
It did help us. At the time it helped us, we didn't know about the COVID years. So that was the big difference. It was going into December of 2019. And I knew that, like, all state deputies face the same dilemma, which is that you get toward the end of the calendar year, you're at the midpoint of your fraternal year, you're just back from the mid-year meeting, and you know you're running up against that lull that comes from the Christmas break, the Christmas holidays. And so we had some significant growth early on in my term, and I didn't want to lose ground because of the holidays. So we decided, let's develop a Advent-based membership drive across the state of Tennessee. And in the end, it was very, very wise that we did that, because we did not know that just a month or so after the Christmas holidays, COVID would hit, everything was shut down, and life as we know it would change forever.
Can you give us some of the details about how the program worked? I'm sure the state deputies who are watching, tonight would love to have a new idea to help them, as you said, get through the Thanksgiving to Christmas doldrums.
Sure. So what we did was we decided we're going to have a membership drive, but let's do this. Let's give it a Christmas theme. So what we called it Race to Bethlehem, and we had to be very sensitive to the fact that not all councils are equal. And I think sometimes state deputies, and I also think sometimes maybe here at Supreme, we lose sight of that fact. You have large councils and you have small councils, and then you have something in between. You have large councils that have been struggling for some time, and maybe they're starting to lose their foothold on being one of the big dogs in their state. And then you have small councils that are completely on fire and merging and growing constantly and expanding their programs. So we wanted to try to find a program that met each council where they're at, or where they were at during that time. So what we did, we adopted the idea from Supreme. Supreme will range the state jurisdictions by divisions. Division 1, those are your large states, your New Yorks and Floridas and Texas. But then you have lower divisions as state jurisdictions get smaller. So we did that in Tennessee. We arranged the councils by Division 1, 2, or 3. We called them tiers. And what we did was we pitted the large councils against each other, middle of the road against each other, smaller councils against each other. And then in each of those tiers, we have prizes, and they were monetary prizes that the councils could use however they needed to, whether it was for membership drives or charitable purposes. And then we had a calculation, and I'll, for the record, I didn't go into medicine or science because I can't do math, so I probably couldn't really explain how we did this, but we did figure out a way for the overall winner to be determined in the state. And it was a calculation of the council size, but also growth percentages, and somebody much smarter than me figured it out. But what we did do was in each tier, we had a first prize, second prize, third prize. And if I recall correctly, I think if you won, came in first place, had the greatest growth percentage in your tier, you got $500. Second place would receive $250, and then I believe it was $100 or $150 for third place. And so in each council was able to participate and have a chance to win something because it was based on their size, and it wasn't a David versus Goliath situation. But what it also did was, at the end, it allowed us to give an overall winner for the state, and that prize was $1,000.
Great. And of course, we hope at least that all of our councils are doing Advent and Christmas themed activities during that time period. This is something that, would allow a council to be able to build membership growth into that theme, because, if the state is doing an Advent or a Christmas themed event, it allows our councils to do the same.
Exactly. It's a great opportunity for growth during the holidays. Like my council, our big thing at Christmas, Council 9317 in Cordova, Tennessee, was Breakfast with Santa. And the great thing about that program was it was right across the street from one of the largest parochial schools in Shelby County, Tennessee, that our parish had, with the churches on one side of the street, school on the other side of the street. But what you had was all morning long, hundreds of kids who wanted to come in, and I don't know if they wanted breakfast, but they wanted to see Santa.
Sure.
And we had several great Santa Clauses over the years. And I hope I'm not ruining that for any state deputy out there, that we had several Santa Clauses. Santa has a very busy schedule. But the kids wanted to come to see Santa. That meant mom or dad had to bring them. We had so much going on at the breakfast, not just the food, but music and high school kids helping out. And the parents were like, "Oh, this is so great. Thank you for doing this." And it was a great opportunity for us to recruit young men.
Absolutely.
And so when a council has a program like that, or Food for Families or Coats for Kids during that time of year, is an excellent recruitment project as well, or recruiting opportunity. So when you combine that with Race to Bethlehem, now they're not just recruiting new members because of the event, but they're also trying to win something for the council by competing with their brother knights and other local councilors or similarly sized councils. And the key to it was constant and consistent communication.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with anything we do as a council, as an order, communication is key. And I do want to emphasize something that you mentioned. Anytime we have a council is doing an event that involves youth, it's an incredible opportunity to recruit because, as you mentioned, dads, even grandfathers, or brothers, older brothers who come to these events. This is a great opportunity to reach men that we may not be reaching elsewhere.
Right.
So yeah, these are, I highly, I think you would agree, highly recommend that if our state deputies aren't thinking about a program during this time period, this is a great opportunity for them to adapt this program to their needs in their particular jurisdiction.
Exactly, because you can't get caught sleeping at the wheel.
Exactly.
We had probably the best growth we've had in December in a long time in Tennessee, because typically Tennessee was a place where it dipped. We got to December, things shut down, people got busy for the holidays, membership took a hit, but not that year. And as I mentioned earlier, when COVID does hit, about 6 to 8 weeks later, everything shuts down. The numbers we got in December got us to the Circle of Honor in June. So you cannot pass up any opportunity, and you have to always look for those opportunities, whether it's during the Christmas holidays or during Lent, during those hot summer days when you're first getting started. You have to keep your councils engaged, and as I mentioned earlier, the important thing with constant and consistent communications was the program worked because each day we would send something out on where councils were. And state deputies out there, they know this. They get up every morning, they look at that Circle of Honor list, and the most refreshing thing in the world is when you don't have to do that anymore after you're no longer a state deputy. But it made the councils get up and look every day where, 9317 was ahead of me yesterday, but now we're ahead of them, and way 7170 is coming up, and it created that competitive. It aided that competitive nature.
Sure, I know you've heard this. Councils will say we're not in it for the awards, but let's be honest. As men, we all have a competitive streak of some sort. It may be stronger in others than in some of us, but we all want to eventually want to be recognized for what we do, and this is a great opportunity for councils to get recognized for what they do. Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much as well for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And, we wanted to now show, with what's being in the month of November and this being Salute the Service Month and, Veterans Day being just the previous week, and, of course, our Supreme Master being a retired member of the Army, we wanted to show you this Knights of Columbus salute to patriotism.
The path we have chosen for the present is full of hazards, as all paths are. But it is the one most consistent with our character and courage as a nation and our commitments around the world. The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission. Our goal is not the victory of might, but the vindication of right. Not peace at the expense of freedom, but both peace and freedom here in this hemisphere, and we hope around the world. God willing, that goal will be achieved. Thank you and good night.
Well, brothers, that's all we have time for tonight. Unfortunately, we have run a little long, and so that means we don't have time for our live Q&A session. Now, if you did ask a question prior to tonight's webinar, or if you've asked one during the webinar in the chat box, we will get those questions answered within 48 hours if we haven't done so already. But I hope you would agree that we did give you a lot of great information tonight, things that you can take back to your jurisdictions and to your councils to try to finish the first half of this fraternal year strong. I want to make sure that you are ready for our December webinar. It's going to be a little different. Our December webinar is going to be all about our council spotlights. We're going to show some of the ones we've already shown this fraternal year, and we're going to have some new ones to show as well as having a few surprises that I don't think you'll want to miss. The December webinar will only be available on demand. So watch the FLA for the announcements of when it's available. We'll also be sending out some direct emails to all council officers and state officers so that you know when it's available and you can publicize it to your members. With that being said, let's go ahead and close in prayer. With Thanksgiving being just a week away here in the United States, I wanted to go ahead and close with a prayer. It's entitled, Help Me. So if you join me in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. Oh God, when I have food, help me to remember the hungry. When I have work, help me to remember the jobless. When I have a home, help me to remember those who have no home at all. When I am without pain, help me to remember those who suffer. And remembering, help me to destroy my complacency, bestir my compassion, and be concerned enough to help. By word and deed, those who cry out for what we take for granted. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Thank you for joining us, brothers. Have a great rest of your month. Have a happy Thanksgiving if you're here in the U.S. Vivat Jesus.